Good morning. I wanted to record the assignment 6.5 final project, the presentation, our final presentation for EDL 719 conflict resolution class with Dr. Nixon. For my final project, I am implementing a peer mediation process. We're going to start between third and fifth grade and then start bringing it down next year to the second grade and the first grade and hopefully kindergarten. Just to give you some background on the school, our school is Anne Frank Elementary School. It's located in Northeast Philadelphia, and it is the largest K through 5 public school in the state of Pennsylvania. There's somewhere between 13 and 1,400 students at any time. And there's somewhere between 40 to 50 different cultures and languages spoken at Anne Frank during the year. To get the final project off the ground, what I did is I made an appointment with one of the two guidance counselors. We have a guidance counselor for 3 through 5 and one for K through 2. I spoke with Mrs. Jennifer Burrell, a guidance counselor in Philadelphia School District, and because she would be the one working with me to implement the program in grades 3 through 5. Later, as we develop it, we have something a little more outlined that I'm going to pull in the second guidance counselor, Dr. George Wilson, and then hopefully we can start moving that. But I see that happening next year with Dr. Wilson. Nice quote: mediation is a process of facilitated negotiation in which the mediator does not act as a judge, but instead it assists the parties as they strive to engage in a civil, productive conversation about how to resolve the dispute and rebuild relationships if a continuing relationship is to exist. That's from our course text. So my plan for the final project is to evaluate what Anne Frank's current policy is, and then hopefully my policy, my peer mediation process would build upon that and hopefully be a little bit better than what they have. For as large of a school as it is, there's actually no formal conflict resolution plan set firmly in place at the school. There's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to the matter of school conflict and how it's handled. First line of defense is hopefully that the classroom teacher handles a situation within his or her classroom. But because of the increase of conflict and the population of school as it rises, there is a quickly growing need for another strategy because the classroom teachers are just being overwhelmed. Keep in mind, every class, K through 2, is stacked with 30 students, and 3 through 5 has 33. So we're starting to see some behavior rising to the top here. So definitely the strategy. I don't know if it'll work, but it's a process that we're going to at least try and see if we can build upon that. The stakeholders that'll be impacted by the peer mediation. So I think this is a little broad, but I think the students, of course, the teachers, the administration, and ultimately the parents and the community will be impacted, because if the students can learn to problem solve, if they can learn to actively problem solve and work it amongst themselves, I think you have a better culture in the school. I think you have a better culture with the families. I think you have a better culture in the community. So that is my overall objective here. As I previously stated, each stakeholder group, the students, teachers, administration, and parents, community, will somehow be impacted by the implementation of the peer mediation project. Again, pulling a quote from the Raines text: satisfaction with mediation programs tends to be significantly higher than with other forms of dispute resolution, such as arbitration or adjudication. So I do expect that the students at Anne Frank will be most impacted by the implementation of this project. If there's going to be a negative impact for any group, I'm going to plan to minimize the negative impact by simply talking to the impacted stakeholders, trying to get to the root cause of the impact, finding what did not work in this peer mediation process. This is where my leadership skills going into this are going to have to shine. Pulling a quote from the Maxwell text, leaders set the tone and the pace for all the people working for them. Therefore, they need to be what they want to see. So we're going to have to model the behaviors that we want to see, and hopefully the students will then pick up from that. That's going to be the objective here. All right, so the stakeholders will be impacted by the peer mediation. Mediation is a problem-solving process rather than an adversarial process. I certainly plan to gain some buy-in from each of the stakeholder groups. I plan to have some good communication with each of the groups. The communication will take part in a wide variety of methods. Being that it's such a large school, it would be naive of me to say that I'm going to meet with each person. But we will talk about that in the final, where we're going to set up a Google Doc where all the peer mediators are have a revolving conversation, an ongoing conversation. And then that way it's on a Google Doc and it'll be fully documented as to who's being seen, when they're being seen, and what the resolution was. Okay. Determine information needed from the stakeholders. Our peer mediation resolution process is going to need to start to gather some data. So I do expect that now and the first year of this, it will be rocky. I don't expect it to be a home run right away, but I do expect to gather data. I do expect to gather information. I do expect to peruse the ongoing Google Doc, and we're going to learn. We're going to reflect upon that first year. We're going to find the bumps in the road, and we're going to work on getting those bumps fixed. So again, it's going to be subjective here, but by looking at numbers, looking at the data, pulling the data and gathering the information, then we can see where we have some trends here. Okay. I want to be really transparent about what I see at Anne Frank right now. Detentions, they're just not kept in a log. It's not real concrete at the school. It's just one of those things. If a teacher says, okay, you have a detention, that simply means that they're just not going outside for a 15-minute recess. Or if it's raining, that just means that they don't go to the auditorium and talk to their friends for 15 minutes. Philadelphia is very, we've got a problem here with the discipline, because when you say detention, it only means 15 minutes. There's nothing before school. There's nothing after school. And there are very little suspensions, and there are absolutely no suspensions in kindergarten. So when you have a behavior issue and these conflicts do not resolve themselves, or the teacher cannot take hold of it, the only recourse the teacher has right now is to enter the student's information into the system. We call it MTSS, multi-tiered support, student support system. It's just documenting what you've done to try to help the student, but there's nothing real proactive here. So I'm hoping that since that's the policy of the school district, I can't supersede that. But what I can do is implement the peer mediation process, and the peer mediation process can hopefully quell the conflicts that happen in the school. So again, we're just going to continue to look for the information that I need from the stakeholders. And it's going to encourage students to apply conflict resolution skills when it matters most, when they are in a dispute. This sets it apart from other conflict resolution models that lack formal effort to encourage students to use their skills when they're actually involved in a conflict. And again, I pulled that from some of our course data. Okay. So conducted interviews, got some information. Like I said, I was in deep discussions with Dr. Wilson a little bit, mostly with Mrs. Burrell. And what I'm hoping to initiate with this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. I plan on collecting the data. It's not going to happen overnight, as I've mentioned a few times already. I do expect it's going to be about a year. We hope to learn plenty of vital information through the process as we collect it throughout the upcoming school year. So yes, the data collection is going to prove vital for the success and or failure of the project. Some things I'm going to look for as I gather the data through next year. Here are some things I'm going to try to track. The overall number of peer mediation process referrals, daily, weekly, monthly, and then through the year. The day of the week. Let's see if there's a trend there. Are we seeing more conflicts rise on a Monday or on a Friday? Is it the middle of the week? And see if we can find out, what's going on here. Find out what grade is submitting the most peer mediation referrals. Maybe they're going to need some support. If we see a specific room or a specific grade, or a specific demographic, who is filling out the form? Are there boys? Are they boys first boys first girls, girls first girls? And again, we'll find it. And we'll try to track the trend daily, weekly, monthly, and annually. And then an exit ticket, maybe a Google form, overall satisfaction of the participants of the process. And again, just see what the students who are going through the process, whether they are the peer mediators or the people receiving the mediation. Let's see how they feel about the overall process. So to wrap up my final presentation for EDL 719, the final plan, my vision is this, in a nutshell. The vision for the project is to look for data tracking and record keeping. All mediation will be documented on a continuous running Google Doc. First, a student who would like to participate in the peer mediation process will fill out a peer mediation request slip. We'll have 2 boxes, almost like a suggestion box, in 2 different parts of the school, because the campus is 4 buildings. So we'll have 2 boxes in 2 centrally located offices. The peer mediators at their lunchtime will go to the box, check to see if there's any request slips. Sometimes there's not going to be any request slips, and that is our hope. But they will check the box to see if there's any slips that are filled out by the students. If there are, the peer mediators will go get the students that are involved in the conflict. A little note here, though, if both students agree, then the peer mediation process goes. But if both students do not agree to sit down and go through the process, then it's done right then and there. Then it comes back, and then it will go to a higher authority. No, okay, we have a problem with X and Y, and they're not willing to resolve it in this process. So then that's where your administration will then have to step in. The mediators are going to follow a predetermined script where they lead, they guide a conversation, a sit down, a calm discussion between the 2 parties. They lay down some simple rules, which are going to call for some designated listening and speaking during the process. And finally, the mediators try to find a solution that works good for both of the parties. The peer mediators, when they're done with the 2 parties, they'll come back and report back to the log. And then hopefully that's where we can track our data. All right. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Reference the 4 reference books that I used are listed on this slide. Thank you for your time.